Hey everyone, so the hobbyist here again. So today we will be conducting DIY brake cleaning service to my Nissan Navara. So let me show you real quick. So first is we will clean the front brakes. As you can see, it has disc brakes on it, and then we will then clean the rear brakes. It has drum brakes. So if you have sedan, usually if it's higher variant, you usually have both disc brakes in front and or the rear, the front and the rear. But if you have pickup trucks, usually you have drum brakes at the rear and disc brake in the front. Okay, so let's start on what we need to conduct the service. I'll go first with the safety. So first, face mask. Second is the latex gloves. You have to make sure that your latex gloves is high quality, because when you're torquing, I experienced before, with low quality latex gloves, you can tear this gloves easily, or the other brand easily, when you're torquing your nuts and bolts. So next is the main star of this service is the brake cleaner, of course. The reason why I'm recommending face mask is because this evaporates really quick, and the vapor of this is not healthy for your lungs. So I recommend worth. This is 500 ml, I think, and there's another item or quantity like 500 plus 700 ml plus 200 ml, which is a lot cheaper, because for the same price you can get it, but it's not available at the moment. So of course, paintbrush or old paintbrush, that's okay. Impact wrench, if you have impact wrench, that's fine, but if you don't have impact wrench, then you can use your regular wrench. Flashlight, of course. And socket wrench set, if you don't have any set, socket wrench set at least ranging from 8 to 16, that's good already for this kind of service. Torque wrench optional, okay, but if you want to have everything on spec, this is necessary. Brake paste, okay, so some talyers out there don't put brake paste. I don't know why, because maybe they're rushing things up. They just spray brake cleaner and assemble everything back, and that's it. So last but not the least, of course, for me, coffee. I'm a coffee guy, I need energy for this. Okay, so let's proceed. Oh, sorry, I almost forgot. Of course, you need your jack, and if you have also you need jack stand also. I have jack stand, I think. Yeah, I have two jack stands for safety. It's optional because you can put your tires under your car as your safety precaution. The first thing that we need to do is to get a better access on the bolt of the caliper. For us to be able to do that, we have to change the direction of the steering wheel and point to the direction opposed to the direction or location of the tire that you're working on. So the first thing that we need to do is to lift up the tire that you were working on. So we have to remove the tire first, so that we can get access on the calipers that we will be cleaning. So I don't have any lifters yet, so I have a scissors jack. I also don't have any crocodile jacks. So I'm using impact wrench to remove the nuts of the tire, and as you can see, it is a lot easier compared on using the wrench. So as you can see right now, I'm using an optional tool. It is actually called vernier caliper, and this will be used to know the exact size of the nut that I will be removing. So this is 13.9 mm, so probably I will be using the 14 mm socket. So these bolts are usually very easy to remove because they are not too tight, unless it was over tightened by your previous mechanic. So mine is Nissan Navara is usually torqued from 25 newton meters to 30 newton meters. You can go up to 33 newton meters. So if you want to know the specifics or the specification of the torque of your caliper, you might want to check with your um, car's service manual. So usually if I bought a car, I immediately try to find after a year the service manual of the car, so I know the specification of each bolts, because it's always good to have the bolts tightened on specs. So after doing so, you will be able to remove the cylinder body. And please take note, don't leave your cylinder body hanging. You have to use maybe an old wire from your appliances. You can tie it up or anywhere you think it is sturdy, so you won't get the brake fluid hose get stressed too much, because it can cause leakage uh, if you get unlucky. And leakage means no brakes. Okay, so you can end up losing your brakes because of it. So now the next step is actually to remove the brake pads. As you can see, there are old brake paste there, because I'll explain later why the brake paste is actually necessary on that part. So I'm just checking if my rotor disc is in good condition. So as you can see, it's already dirty. I think this is dirty enough for me. So this is why it is called preventive maintenance. It is better to do it early than doing it later. So the last time I cleaned this brake system is actually 10,000 kilometers ago. So as you can see, I'm checking the caliper pins. So that those are the caliper pins with boot right there. So here are the brake pins or the caliper pins. They usually have grace inside the hole right there, because they were designed to glide, so that your disc brake system can adjust automatically. So if it's stationary, when your brake pads is worn out, it will have a huge gap. Because of this caliper pins, your brake system is able to adjust on its own. So you better don't forget to clean it up and change the brake paste applied on that caliper pins, because we have to make sure that it is moving. So since we're done removing the cylinder body, we can now start cleaning it up using a brake cleaner and the used paintbrush. The reason why I'm using paintbrush is to the brake cleaner dissolves the old oil and the dirt itself, and then the paintbrush acts like your rag and removes it from there. But I will also use rag afterwards, or microfiber towel, just to make sure that everything is very clean, and it will be prepared for the new brake paste. And by the way, what we're cleaning is actually called the pad clip, and this is where your brake pads is currently mounted and it's gliding. That is the reason why we need to add or put brake paste on it, so the brake pads can move freely and have enough lubrication, but not too much. The next step is to disassemble the brake pads and remove its shim. On my end, I have two shims. I'm not sure on different car brand or models, but usually I think on my previous BIOS, I also have two shims on my brake pads. So we have to remove it. Please take note that you don't change its position. So you have to put it back in order. So simple rule is the first that you have removed is the last that you have to put back. So once you disassembled it and separated the shims from the pad itself, just like earlier, spray it with brake cleaner, use the brush, and if there's any remaining residues, use your microfiber towel to remove everything. So I will fast forward the video because we will be following the same procedure on the next pad. So once you're done cleaning your shims and brake pads, we will now proceed and clean the guide pins and the lock pin. So now let's clean the guide pins. I don't usually brush it, I wipe it immediately because this part has more stubborn brake paste. Just do the same procedure on the lock pin. After cleaning the lock pins and the guide pin, is you can get a Q-tip and clean the slot where the guide and lock pin is being inserted. This is the port where there's a boot that locks with the lock pin and the guide pin. So an optional tool is the compressor. You can spray it with brake cleaner and let it dry a little bit so that the dirt will get dissolved. Then spray it with your compressor. So now let's proceed and clean the cylinder body and the cylinder itself. As you can see, it's very dirty because oil paste in due time attracts dirt. But if you use conventional grease rather than using brake paste, the grease is tend to attract more dirt and dust. As you can see, it is now clean. So basically, we completed cleaning everything, the pad clips, where the brake pads is actually mounted and moving, the cylinder body and the cylinder itself, the guide pins, and the lock pin. So that's what you need to clean. You don't really need to clean the rotor disc unless it's very dirty. But rotor disc are tend to clean itself because it's rotating very fast. And also when you car wash your car, when you put pressure washer on it. So since we're done cleaning, second to the last part of the cleaning process is of course replace the old and dirty brake paste with the new one and the clean one. Please be reminded to add adequate amount of brake paste. Do not over apply it or apply excessive amount because it can splatter all over your braking system, especially on the rotor disc, and this can result loss of friction, and loss of friction means weak or without any brakes or losing your brakes capability. So now we are adding um, brake paste on the caliper clips, and just make sure that we have covered everything where there's a contact between the pads and the caliper clips. So we need to lubricate the shims of the brake pads. You just need to lubricate the first outer uh, part of the first shim so that the outer shim is moving freely, and this will avoid unwanted vibration or sounds from your brakes or calipers. So how would you know if the position of the brake pads will be correct? So that glider or spring type that I'm lubricating right now is always at the bottom. Or if you're not familiar with it, just check the marks of the outer shims and where it is being contacted or the contact point between the brake pads and the cylinder body. You will notice that there's a pattern, and as you can see, the right side of the right side pads has this kind of circle pattern, which means it is being contacted with the cylinder itself. So the cylinder uh, is positioned to the right side of the caliper assembly. You can actually test the spring of your um, brake pads by squeezing it and make sure that it is going back. The bottom part of the pad is going back to the position where it has a little bit of allowance between the pad itself and the rotor disc. Now let's lubricate the pistons. Just make sure to add an adequate amount of brake paste on the cylinder wall where it touches the brake pads or the shims of the brake pads. Also, I'm putting, I actually this is just my preference. I'm lubricating the wall of it where it touches the cylinder boot. The reason why I'm recommending this because the cylinder is moving in and out of the cylinder body, and you want to avoid friction between the cylinder and the boot itself. Let's now lubricate the guide pin and the lock pin. Now let's lubricate the guide pin and the lock pin. You have to make sure that you're putting a lot or thicker brake paste on this one because you wanted to lubricate the point of contact between the guide pin, the pinhole, and the boot.
Since we completed the lubrication of the parts or the friction points of the caliper, now let's untie the caliper body and put it back. And I will just tighten it with a little bit of amount of torque as of the moment, because we will be torquing it with a torque wrench. Again, this is an optional tool, and I will be torquing it on 25 to 33 Newton meters. After that, just spray an adequate amount of brake cleaner on the rotor disc. Now it's time to return or put back the wheel. You will just repeat the procedure on the other side of this wheel. Since we completed cleaning the front brakes, we will now clean the rear brakes. And now rear brakes has a different kind of type of brake. It is actually a drum brake, where it is less complicated when cleaning it. Even though it is less complicated and easier to clean, it is much more difficult to remove. The reason behind that is because the brake shoe almost touches the wall of the drums of the drum brake. So what you need to do is to loosen your drum brakes configuration, just to make sure that you will be able to pull the drums from the drum brakes assembly. Once I completed adjusting the brakes to its lowest configuration, now I will tap it with the rubber mallet so that I can detach the brake drums from the assembly itself. Actually, I wasn't able to show you how to loosen or adjust the brakes because I don't have a camera that fits behind the drum brake assembly. This another step is optional. Not everything, but the optional part is if you have compressor, you have to spray every part of the brake drum assembly with compressed air if you have a compressor. Before or if you don't have a compressor, you have to use your brush first to remove the dust on the surface. Then you can now spray it with brake cleaner. The purpose of the brake cleaner is to remove the stubborn residues or oils in your assembly or every part of your drum brake assembly. The reason why I'm recommending to brushing it first is to avoid um, your brake cleaner to run out before you finish cleaning it. So this is actually the efficient way of using the brake cleaner. So it is important to use your brake cleaner efficiently because it ain't cheap. Also, it is optional to remove the locks of your brake shoe so that you can get access behind the brake shoe where it has a point of contact between the shoe itself and the brake drum assembly. That is the part where you have to put your brake paste. Also, if you notice, there's a point of contact between the brake shoe and the cylinder as well. The cylinder is the top cylinder that is moving, where it expands it with the brake fluid and opens up the brake shoe and the spring. The next step is to check if everything is in place. Just make sure that everything is intact or you put back everything because that is the crucial part of this step. And once you're sure, make sure that you have checked the adjustment as well. You don't have to adjust it immediately because what we will be doing is adjust it later once the brake drum is intact. So once you have cleaned your brake drums, you have to put it back and tap it with the rubber mallet. If it's not going in, don't force it because you have to adjust it or loosen the adjustment first again before putting it in so that you can actually avoid damaging your brake shoe. So right now, once you have attached the brake drum, what you need to do here is to adjust it first to the highest adjustment. So there will be clicks here. So I'm adjusting it on 3 clicks. Okay, and then I'm trying to rotate the brake drums and see if it's still loose. Now you have to adjust it to the highest point where the drums is actually no longer moving. So that's the first highest adjustment because you can still tighten it afterwards. Now, once you reach the tightest or the highest configuration of the adjustment, then you can loosen it. Then once you loosen it, you can't lose it all the way because there is a lock. Um, there's a limiter when you're losing it. So once you've loosened it, you will notice that you will not be able to rotate it anymore. The adjuster itself, and when you that will give you a small allowance between the brake shoe and the brake drum itself, and that is the right configuration. or adjustment of your rear brakes. As you notice, it is a lot different when it comes to caliper. It doesn't have this kind of automatic adjustment. Once you are done, just make sure to reattach the adjustment cover. So the rubber that we have removed earlier, I'm not sure if you've seen it from the video because it is fast forwarded. So basically that is it. Once you are done, please make sure to test drive your car. If you feel that something is loose or something is not right, you have to inspect again all of your tire and make sure that your brake fluid is on the correct level or maximum level. Again, I am recommending doing this every 10,000 kilometers, but on your case, it can be earlier. As I mentioned before, it is better to do PMS earlier than later. Also, brakes is a very crucial part of your car compared to your engine because if the brake system fails, your life or your family's life is on the line. And that concludes our video. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.